when someone, because I was just in Singapore before I flew here, and I met with, some young sharp guys, tech guys, and they want to launch their own coin, their own ICO. And, they wanted to know, if they could count on my support. And I said, well, to tell you the truth, I only invest in what I know is legitimate. I'm not into gambling on another ICO. I know Bitcoin's real, Ethereum's real, Zcash is real, other legitimate altcoins are real because they're decentralized. Is your ICO a decentralized coin? Is it on a decentralized platform? And they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. I said, well, what I mean by decentralized is nobody owns it or controls it. That's why Bitcoin succeeded when other digital coins before them failed and digital coins after them failed. And all digital coins that are miraculously created out of thin air that have no proof of work, no way to secure and protect the network through a distributed network of miners. No one's ever going to have any faith, trust, confidence, or belief in those coins because they're worthless. You just produce coins and say it's for this purpose or it's for that purpose and it's going to be worth this or it's going to be... Where's your guarantee? Where's your proof? First of all, history has already shown us that if it's not a decentralized platform that no one can control or manipulate, that no one owns, it's not going to succeed. Now, the one exception, I think, and there'll probably be other exceptions, but one that comes to mind is Ripple. Ripple is not a cryptocurrency. It is a digital currency created by the big banks. And their intention is to use it for institutional big money transfers. Okay, using a digital coin for that. And because of their support and backing and promotion, it'll probably be around for a while. Okay, but all of these fly-by-night con men and promoters, charlatans, that are trying to grab on the coattails of Bitcoin or Ethereum to try to prove up their model are never going to succeed because they haven't invested the kind of money and time that it takes to, first of all, have a blockchain that can't be hacked, that secures and protects the network. And a distributed network like Bitcoin has hundreds of millions of computers around the world, all these miners that are verifying and validating every transaction and documenting it on the blockchain. And that's something that, no one can hack, although they've tried. The establishment's tried, documented over 200 times. Never succeeded, never will, because it's actually more difficult now than it was years ago. Because as the transactions increase, the level of difficulty increases. Among other things that increase the difficulty. But about every 10 minutes, we have a new block that's being mined by all of the miners out there that are mining. So when you look at the history of cryptocurrency, first of all, most people don't understand the difference between a digital coin and cryptocurrency. Okay, cryptocurrency is encrypted. It's running on a blockchain that protects and secures all of the transactions that will, happen between parties. And it's because Bitcoin has proven itself over the years, over 9 years now, almost 9.5 years, that it's overcome every challenge, every obstacle, every piece of negative news, all the propaganda, all the opposition from the establishment. It's succeeded. And it's come down to a point now where if you can't beat them, what do? You join them. So now you're seeing, banks and governments and multi-billion-dollar companies and some of the wealthiest people in the world that are all getting behind blockchain technology, in particular Bitcoin and its blockchain, although, there's other legitimate ones like Ethereum. But when people want to talk to me about these coins, it's like, about a little over a year ago, all of my friends started pitching me and telling me about YoCoin. Do you remember YoCoin?
Yeah. Uh-huh. That was big in the Vietnamese community. Huge.
And I told them, I said, okay, first of all, guys, let me just educate you because you haven't taken the time to do your due diligence. Do you know who the owners of that are? No. I said, well, you should, because they've already launched 2 other scam crypto opportunities. Scam people out of millions of dollars. So, probably a leopard doesn't change its spots. but you ought to check that out. Yeah, but this coin has gone from this to this, and it's going to go to that. I'm like, really? Have you gone online and looked at the order book to see who's buying and selling those coins? It's the owner selling them back and forth to each other to artificially drive the price up so that gullible people like you will pay a ridiculous price for that coin, and it's going to crash. It won't even be around. I doubt it'll last 6 months, which is about all it lasted, right?
Yeah, it wasn't very long.
And Gladia coin, same thing. Jet coin right after it. Ucoin, even before that in Thailand and parts of Asia. There's just been so many. I mean, you could just go down a list. Scam, 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 scam. And, they just keep recreating the next scam with a different name. But, same flaws that all the other previous scams have had. Now, if you know at least this much, you can see all these red flags. Because, they're like flashing neon signs, scam. Why people would put their money in these scam coins? Why? Because everybody wants to get rich quick. They want to get rich the easy, fast way. Well, if you want to live in the land of fairies and mermaids and unicorns, go ahead. But, I'm no longer a child. I don't read fairy tales anymore, right? But a lot of people still, I guess, buy into these fairy tales. And unfortunately, they get spanked or slapped real hard. And eventually, some of them actually wake up and they start looking for what's really legitimate. Because you kind of learn a little bit along the way. Maybe you got misled in the beginning. But if you keep getting misled, then shame on you.
Yeah.
Right? Because you got to take the time to investigate and educate yourself. Because Bitcoin is real. And I tell people, look, why would you take a chance on something that's unproven, untested, undocumented? There's absolutely zero documentation to back up what they're telling you. Why would you buy into that when you can actually get into something that's proven, that's legitimate? Because Bitcoin is going to climb to hundreds of thousands a coin. Eventually it'll be over 1 million a coin, because one Bitcoin can be divided into so many microbits. 100 million microbits in one Bitcoin. So if one microbit today was a penny, what would a Bitcoin be worth? $1 million. Because a lot of people are like, how could Bitcoin be $1 million? Well, you don't understand the digital world, obviously, and that one Bitcoin is comprised of 100 million microbits. So if a microbit was a penny, Bitcoin would be $1 million right now. So even now with the price of Bitcoin, a lot of people aren't buying whole Bitcoins, they're buying fractions of Bitcoin. They're buying $500 worth or $5,000 worth, and if they can afford it, they'll buy a whole Bitcoin. But when Bitcoin's $50,000 a coin later this year, or next year it goes to maybe $100,000, $150,000 a coin, a lot of people can't just buy one Bitcoin. The time to be earning Bitcoin is right now. Doesn't mean you're not going to make money a year from now or 2 years from now, but nowhere near as much as you are now, because here's the perspective that I try to give leaders. I say, look, let me talk to you about our industry, because we've all been successful in our industry, right? Doesn't matter how much you made or I made. We've all made money. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, we're still here.
Now, the reality is that with traditional network marketing, let me say some things that I would assume that you already know. Traditional network marketing finds a product or a service and they mark it up, usually between 8 and 12 times, to pay out the compensation plan, which puts the price of the product or service above what similar products or services sell for in the marketplace. And then we recruit people that need to make money to sell a no-name brand that markets a product that's overpriced. And we wonder why people quit their first month or their second month or their third month, or that 90% quit within 6 months. So traditional network marketing, isn't it about replacing people all the time? You got to sponsor them faster than they quit. Now, I'm not exaggerating, am I?
No.
That's the truth. That's the grind. Now, we can still make millions of dollars in this industry. The industry's been very good to me. David's probably told you that, I've been in the industry almost 30 years. I built to the top of everything that I've joined. which means 10 companies, including Bitclub, I've built to the top of the comp plan. And in 5 of those 10 companies, I've been the number 1 income earner. So when I say the industry's been very good to me, it really has. But I can tell you that with Bitclub Network, it's the best experience of my entire career by so many times more. And here's some of the reasons why. Imagine whether it's what you're making today, or maybe you made more with another project, whatever the case may be, whether it's today or in the past, how much would you be making today, or would you have made in the past, if no one in your business ever quit?
A lot.
Just let that sink in. Because if no one ever quit, and you're getting paid on everyone in perpetuity, you'd made at least 10 times more than you made, right? Because usually only 1 out of 10 stick, and sometimes they even quit.
Yeah.
You know, but we'd have made a lot more money. That's fair to say, right? Mm-hmm. Now, what if the business model, not only did they never quit and you got paid on them every day, and they never had to come out of pocket for any money? So one-time investment, but yet they're doing something that's paying them every single day, and we're overriding what they're earning every single day. Imagine that. And with our repurchase program, it's like every year they add another auto ship.
Yeah.
And then they got double the repurchasing power after the first year. So in half the time, 6-7 months, they've got 3 mining contracts we're overriding. And then 4, which means their income daily is going up, and so are our overrides and commissions. Pretty significant, isn't it? And that's the model that we have.
You have a really unique way of when somebody comes with an MLM to talk to you. Can you go through that process?
I'm not sure which one you're talking about.
You guys comes and calls you up, says, I got a great good deal.
Yeah.
You know, Michael, I know you've been successful. I want to get you on the program. I got this MLM program. I want you to come over here and work with me.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a series of questions that you ask.
Right. Well, I was starting to kind of go down that path. I asked the first question already. What if no one ever quit? Mm-hmm. Okay. But it actually gets so much better than that with Bitclub Network, because if you're in traditional MLM, whether you're making $100,000 a month or you're making more than that every month, the reality is you're getting paid in dollars that you're paying taxes on. True or not true?
True.
Well, when you're getting paid on Bitcoin, do you know that there's no tax on Bitcoin? It's still treated as property by the IRS, not as income, not as a form of money. Now, I think that's going to change, but the reality is right now, we don't have to pay tax on our Bitcoin. Now, if you convert it to their money, you're supposed to report that as a capital gain. But capital gains tax is still way less than income tax. But here's where it gets really good, is if you're earning $100,000 a month in whatever company, and I'm earning $100,000 a month in Bitcoin, what have you seen Bitcoin do over the last 12 months?
Multiply.
Go up in price.
Yeah, I mean, even at today's price, it's selling for 10 times more than it did a year ago at this
Last
time.
February.
Right? 10 times more. So if you earned $100,000 a month a year ago with Bitclub Network, today that $100,000 is really $1 million, isn't it? And by the end of this year, that $1 million is really $5 million. And who knows what it's going to be worth in the future. Now, we've never had the ability to create that level of wealth in any program that any of us have ever been in, where what we're getting paid is going up in value so much, and we're not also having to report that as income and pay tax on it. And the best part is just the knowledge that no matter who gets involved with Bitclub Network, no matter who, it could be an elderly person, it could be a young person, it could be someone that's a single parent, doesn't matter who it is, they cannot and will not get hurt. Now sometimes, people say, what do you mean get hurt? I'm like, well, come on. If you sell someone on an opportunity and they got to put hard-earned money into it and keep putting money into it to qualify for a check they're never going to get, because 85% of the people never get paid a check in network marketing, they're getting hurt. They're risking their reputation, their financial well-being. I mean, you could get hurt in MLM, which is why so many people have negative opinions of network marketing, because so many people have tried and failed. But, the way that network marketing works, it doesn't give the average person really a fair chance. I mean, if they don't have people skills, communication skills, business skills, work ethic, discipline, so forth and so on, and they're out there selling a product that is overpriced in most people's eyes from a brand they've never heard of, we're stacking the deck against them, aren't we? Now, we still have trained some incredible people that have succeeded despite the odds. Okay, so I don't want to take that away from any of us, because we've really tried to help as many people as we can. We've trained them, and some have gone on and become multimillionaires. But I can tell you this, in the history of network marketing, there has never been a company that has created as many multimillionaires as Bitclub Network has in such a short period of time. I mean, I've got guys in my group that are making between $1 and $3 million a month, and some of them in less than a year, in Bitcoin.
Where are they at?
Most of them are in Japan.
Okay.
Yeah, our top income earners are in Japan and Korea.
Okay.
Yeah, Michael.
Hopefully Andy will come. If Andy comes, you get a chance to meet him. He's here.
He's Japanese?
Yeah.
He's cool. And he was out. He organized the whole trip when we were going out there to Iceland.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
He's a really cool guy. I've known Andy for probably 25 years.
Not many words, but he's cool.
Yeah.
Very to the point.
The Japanese don't talk too much.
Yeah, he's like, right
Let me
there.
tell you, they work hard.
Work hard, though. Yeah. Even it's all work. The whole event. It's all running.
But when what I've been saying starts to really sink in and percolate, you'll find it hard to look at MLM the same.
What questions have they told you about Bitclub, or what do they say? What are you hearing?
So they're just saying, hey, it's a pooled club where you're going to only earn so much from the mining. Why not go here when you can earn more in many ways? And we have more power here. So they're just giving me the Bitclub network can only do so much as far as hashing, mining,
Wow.
and earning on the shares. And it's a club. So that's all I know. I'm like, okay.
Well, first of all, it's a private club owned by the members.
Correct.
And also, we're the only Bitcoin mining pool in the world that pays out 100% of what we mine every day to those members.
Hello, Michelle. Sit over here.
Appreciate you guys all coming. We're going to go ahead and start, and I'll give it a little bit of time for 7 o'clock. We say we're going to start. We're going to start at this time. So I appreciate everyone coming here. My name is David Brent, and I'll tell you what, this is what you're going to hear. A lot of you guys know about Bitclub Network. Who is in the business right now? Who has a position in the business? A lot of people do, okay? Who does not? Okay, hands up. Okay, all right, appreciate it. Because you guys are, this meeting's really for you guys. For us, we're learning, how to be better presenters and learning a little bit more about what we've got ourselves invested in. But for the new people who are not in the business yet, for you guys, this is really a meeting for you. So we're going to hear a little bit about, how the program goes. You're going to hear about what's out there in the industry about Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies. And I'll tell you a little bit of my background, just so you know. I've been in network marketing about 9 years, full-time. And I got involved because I was in a situation where I was going through a divorce. And I could either go into doing corporate America and not be around my son, or I had an opportunity to actually be at home and make money. And that sounded a lot better to me. So therefore, I got involved in learning the networking realm. And fortunately, I got interested in meeting this guy here in Texas, first time. And actually, when I did, I met his beautiful wife, Tatiana. And as Michael and Tatiana, I saw their charisma, what they've done. I followed them and learned a lot of what they've done and kind of emulated them as kind of my mentors in networking. And every time Michael had something to share, it was always something very powerful. And always he went right to the top of these companies. So I said, he's proven success, and I need to follow that. So as I did that and it got into the crypto space, he said, David, I found something you need to take a look at. And at the time, I was having some success. And I said, it sounds great. Let me take a look at it a little later. When you get to Tampa, let me know. And I kicked this opportunity back about a year, if you can believe that. And in a year's time, he comes back to me explaining the opportunities, and I had already went through some cryptocurrency mistakes, which I know a lot of you guys know about. And when you do that, you tend to feel like maybe this space is just a bunch of scams. Or maybe this is not real. Maybe this is a bubble, or there's something that's fraudulent behind it because it doesn't seem to be secure. I've learned different now. And you guys who are new are going to learn that as well. And you guys who are already on board, you guys already know this. So now that I'm on board, it took about 5 months. We had my partner Roberto Ray and I and my other partner Dr. Benny. We hit Monster in 5 months in the business. It took a little while, but we worked really hard. And thanks to our mentor, we were able to build an organization, sizable organization. Been to all the trips, Dubai, we went to Iceland, all over for the company, and we're still traveling like crazy. We're out of Tampa. We're excited, but my friend, Peter, who's our other host tonight, we were in a business together for many years, 5, 6 years together, and he was at one of the high ranks. I was at a high rank in the business, and when we saw what that company did to the compensation plan, we saw what can happen, you just start to look other places, and thank goodness it did happen, so that's why we're here. So we welcome you guys tonight. Thank you, and I'm going to turn everything over to my good friend and mentor, Michael Alexander.
Thank you, David. Well, before we get started, I want to thank you, Peter, for being gracious and providing your office as a place for people to come together and assemble. And it's good to see a lot of familiar faces here, as well as a lot of new faces. In fact, some I haven't seen in a long time. Good to see you. And all of you, I'm glad we all came together. We had a discussion before everyone started coming in, since we have a limited amount of time, what information would be best to share, and whether we should do a formal presentation. I don't know how you feel about those in PowerPoints, but if you've seen one, you've seen them all, right? But they're good sometimes. Visuals are pictures are worth 1,000 words, they say, right? But when I have been traveling around the world, and Andy and I have been traveling a lot together. As a matter of fact, Andy was one of the first people that I sat down and shared Bitclub Network with, and he's built a huge business. In fact, if we have time, David and Peter, maybe some testimonials, I'd love if you'd share a little something. A few other people share, just their stories like David did. And of course, I'm willing to share my story as well, but I don't want to waste too much time talking about myself. I really want to talk to you about why you came here, which is about Bitcoin, blockchain technology, Bitclub Network, and Bitcoin mining. So let's do what seems to always work well to really set the tone for our time together this evening. It's good for me to get to know a little bit about my audience. And then I know how to tailor the information and presentation to try to fit the audience. Now, I know that we're all different in terms of our knowledge of blockchain technology and Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies versus digital coins. And the things we're hearing about today, we're all at a different level. So one of the ways that I try to gauge kind of where you're at is, let's think of this on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 is you know everything. 1 is you've heard of Bitcoin. And if you're somewhere in between, you might be a 3, 4, 5, or 6. That everyone understand that scale? So on a scale of 1 to 10, how many 10s do we have here tonight? Okay. How many people are 1s? They've just heard about Bitcoin. Okay? And the rest of you, how many of you are a 5 or under?
Probably a 5.
Okay. And how many are a 6 or above? Wow, we've got quite a diverse audience here tonight. So here's what I'm going to ask. For those of you that, obviously I know you're already in Bitclub Network, and I know that you've already learned a tremendous amount about Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining and cryptocurrency mining and things like that. I'm going to ask you to just be patient because we have a lot of guests here tonight. And some of those are really just beginning to embark on a journey which is going to literally change your lives, as it has for me and so many other people that I've been able to share this information with. So we'll start with some basics, if that's okay with everyone.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, let's start with Bitcoin. We're hearing a lot about Bitcoin in the news nowadays, aren't we? But most people still really don't know or understand what Bitcoin's all about. And so, kind of a fundamental way to start our conversation here tonight is to describe Bitcoin, or have you think of Bitcoin as internet money, digital money. And wouldn't you agree that the world we live in today is pretty much everything's gone digital? How many people are still using old film, or are they using digital cameras nowadays? We're using digital, aren't we?
Right.
How many people use email?
Everybody.
Everybody nowadays, right?
Sure.
Remember when you first started to receive or try to send an email, did you feel just a little lost? Just a little bit overwhelmed? Or maybe when you sat down in front of your first computer? Do you remember that? I remember my first experience. Scared me to death. In fact, my secretary, if she hadn't forced me to buy a computer for the office, I don't know if I'd have ever learned how to. Now, that's going back some years ago. But really not that far back, really, when you think about it. But what is an email? Isn't that a digital letter?
Yeah.
Isn't that better, more efficient, a better way to communicate in the world we live in today, thanks to technology and the internet? I mean, when Bill Gates wrote the book, and it was published, The Speed of Light. Do you remember when that came out? How many years ago? I mean, that goes way back, doesn't it?
I didn't even know I wrote a book.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
If you haven't read it, it's still a great read today. We still have some empty seats. Please make yourself at home. So, the things he talked about in that book, for most people, were really science fiction. They couldn't imagine that what he was talking about and describing would someday become the world we live in today. How many of you remember Bill Gates being ridiculed and scoffed and laughed at because he said one day everyone would have a personal computer?
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
How many of you have a personal computer? Just about everywhere in the world. I mean, even when I've been to India, the street sweepers have phones. It's like everywhere I go, everyone has a digital computer nowadays. And it's connected the world, hasn't it? Well, when we understand how technology and the digital age that we've come into has transformed our lives and our businesses and the way we communicate, the way we entertain ourselves, and so on and so on and so on, it's not surprising, is it, that our money should be digital as well? I mean, you think about money as we know it today. If you go back centuries, over 1,000 years, we didn't have money as we know it today. They were still exchanging other things, weren't they? Like gold and silver. And if you go back even further, maybe seashells. So I hear. I wasn't around back then. But today, is paying for things with gold and silver practical? Really not. You can't go down to Burger King and shave off your gold bar, some gold shavings to pay for a Whopper, can you? And what about credit cards? Because it literally, from the time that the banks and the governments tried to replace people's gold and silver with paper money, it took almost 400 years for that revolution to become mainstream. People didn't want to let go of the gold and silver. Now, more recently, we've had introduced the credit cards, right? I mean, probably most of us have credit cards, although most people in the world don't have credit cards. They can't qualify for them. But credit cards took a lot less time, didn't it? It took about 50, 60 years for credit cards to become mainstream. I remember when I was traveling 20, 25 years ago, not every business accepted credit cards. As hard as that is to imagine. But not every business accepted. It's really only been in the last few decades that, credit cards are pretty much accepted everywhere today. But is credit cards a really good way to exchange value? I mean, has anyone here besides me been a victim of credit card fraud? Oh, you have? How many people here have a business with a merchant account or know someone with a business and they deal with chargebacks? I mean, that is a real pain. Not only chargebacks, but credit card fraud. Not to mention the banks raising fees or raising reserves because they put you in a higher risk category or freezing your account. But the thing about cryptocurrency is anyone can set up a wallet. It's free. It's easy. Doesn't take much time. And they literally now have their own private bank. They don't need a third party. They don't need anyone's participation, involvement, or approval to send something of value to someone anywhere in the world. And literally a fraction of the time that they would normally transfer through the bank or Western Union or MoneyGram or PayPal or something like that. Literally seconds, minutes, and for a fraction of what it costs. But the best part that most people like is they don't have to fill out all the forms. They don't have to get anyone's permission or pay any of the high fees. It's between person to person, whoever you're receiving or sending to. And that's how Bitcoin works. Now, how many people here think Bitcoin was the first digital currency? Most people think that. But actually, Bitcoin was not the first digital currency. There were digital currencies before Bitcoin, but they failed. Bitcoin, though, was the first cryptocurrency. And I want to make that distinction before we really get into things here tonight, because there's a lot of digital currencies out there. A lot. There have been a lot in the past, there's going to be a lot in the future, and they're going to come and go, come and go, come and go. Now let's talk about why there's a difference between a digital coin and a cryptocurrency. The difference with a cryptocurrency, which is what Bitcoin is, Bitcoin was the world's first decentralized distributed network that ran on a blockchain, was encrypted. It was secured and protected by the blockchain technology. Now, if we had more time, we could get into some of the technical aspects of blockchain technology, but if you're paying attention to what's going on in the world, and I encourage you, if you're not, start. Everybody, banks, governments, businesses are starting to utilize and incorporate blockchain technology. Now, Bitcoin is just an application of the blockchain technology. But you see, the reason that Bitcoin became successful and has become so dominant in the space that people will trust it, believe in it, have confidence in it, is because it's proven itself. There have been nearly 200 documented cases of where the establishment has tried to hack the blockchain. Because maybe you've already learned that in the beginning there was a lot of resistance to Bitcoin. Because it really threatened the establishment, didn't it? Threatened the banks and the governments and their economies. And so, if that were the case, it's not surprising that they would try to stop it. Or at least slow it down with propaganda and misinformation and things like that. Thank you. But the reality is that no matter what they've tried to bring up against Bitcoin, it has survived. It's overcome. It's never been hacked, and it never will be hacked. In fact, it's becoming increasingly difficult with more and more transactions and more computers mining Bitcoin for it to ever be hacked anyway. Even when people start talking about quantum computers, but usually they don't even know what they're talking about anyway. But the reality is that is why Bitcoin has become the dominant cryptocurrency. Now, it's not the only cryptocurrency. There are other cryptocurrencies, and Bitclub Network mines those as well. We not only mine Bitcoin, but we also mine others, such as Ethereum and Ethereum Classic and Zcash and coins like that, Monero as an example. And we will mine others because there will be other cryptocurrencies in the future. But let's talk about some of the things that makes Bitcoin unique. First of all, it is a decentralized platform. Now, most people, when they hear that, they don't know what you're talking about. And I'm not going to ask you whether you do or don't, because I'm not here to embarrass anybody. But the reality is most people don't know what a decentralized platform is versus centralized. It's very simple. A centralized platform, like these digital scam coins, can be controlled and manipulated by these people that just miraculously create these digital tokens out of thin air. They can control it, they can manipulate it because it's theirs to do. However, Bitcoin is on a decentralized platform, meaning no one owns it. No person, no group of people, no companies, no corporations, no banks, no governments. Nobody owns Bitcoin. It's really the people's coin. Yes, community. No one can control it. No one can manipulate it. No one can hack the blockchain. And the blockchain and the mining that we talk about, what mining simply is, it's not picks and shovels. I mean, a lot of people think you're talking about picks and shovels when you talk about mining. But literally, we have a global network, a distributed network of hundreds of millions of computers that are doing the mathematical calculations to solve the algorithm, because every 10 minutes there's a new block, and whoever solves the math, because there's many mining pools, whoever solves the math is awarded the Bitcoin. Now, when Bitcoin first started being mined, every block, 50 Bitcoin were awarded. And then it halved after 210,000 blocks, which is around the start of 2013. And then it went to 25. That's what we mean by halving. And then it halved again in July of 2016, and it went to 12 and a half. And today, where is it at? It's still at 12 and a half, but it's going to halve again in 2020. About every 4 years it halves. And so when it halves the next time, the rewards will no longer be 12 and a half Bitcoin per block, they'll be 6 1/4. And the next time it halves, it'll be 3 1/8. And that will continue to halve until the year 2140. And that's when the last Bitcoin will be mined. Now, the good news is, if you've been following Bitcoin, how many people here have been following Bitcoin long enough to see it go up in price?
Yeah.
How many have been following it long enough to see it go down in price? Now, I celebrate when it goes down in price. And any Bitcoin blockchain expert celebrates when there's a correction in the marketplace. It gives us an opportunity to sell high when we set new all-time highs, to sell and take profits. And then when the market corrects, because that's always what happens, right? When you have a lot of people selling, what happens to the price? And when you have a lot of people buying, what happens to the price? And so it goes like this. But what it really does is it goes like this. Because it keeps going up and up, right? If you had talked to me a year ago, I would have encouraged you to get involved with Bitclub Network, as I will encourage you to do so tonight. I would encourage you to get into Bitcoin mining to whatever degree or level you could. And those that listen to me are now thanking me. And others that didn't want to take the time to learn about Bitclub Network or Bitcoin mining, I said, look, at the very least, go out and buy some Bitcoin. And some did. And some didn't. Now, those that didn't are full of what? Remorse and regret. Because about this time last year, you could buy Bitcoin for under $1,000 a coin. And then, what was the last all-time high for Bitcoin, which was hit in December of last year? Yeah, just under 20 grand a coin. Now, if you'd have bought at 1,000 and sold at 20, would you have a smile on your face?
You bet.
And the more coins you had bought, the bigger the smile would have been, right? Now, a lot of people are like, well, why is the price now half of what it was in December? Well, first of all, you know it went from about 10,000 a coin to 20,000 a coin in a period of about 2 weeks. Is that real? No. Now, there were factors in the marketplace, a lot of positive news with licenses being issued to 2 major companies that were going to start trading Bitcoin. Major institutions like Goldman Sachs were getting involved and behind Bitcoin. A lot of positive news. And when positive news comes out, what does it do to the price? Now, none of us in the cryptocurrency space expected Bitcoin to hit 20,000 a coin last year. But we knew it would go over 10,000. And we knew that in January it would correct. Because what happened in January of 2016? Anybody know? There was a correction. Do you know what happened in the first part of 2015? There was a correction. Every beginning of every new year, there's usually a significant correction. Now, that is a time really to celebrate. Because do you want to buy high or do you want to buy low? If you're going to get in the game, you want to buy low. The problem is, whether it's real estate or Bitcoin or something else, most people make the mistake of buying high because they get so caught up in the fear of loss, the sense of urgency. Oh, it's getting too expensive. Houses are getting too expensive. And they go out and they start buying houses, right? Or buying Bitcoin when it's up here. That's when I'm selling. Makes sense, doesn't it? And then if there's a correction, as there always will be, and that's one of the reasons you know it's real. Does the stock market go up and down? Do currencies go up and down? Anything of any value is going to go up and down. Now, Bitcoin was originally viewed by most everyone as a store of value, a great store of value. That's why they called it digital gold. You know, digital gold, Bitcoin. Great store of value. But now we have countries that have actually began to recognize and pass laws that are giving Bitcoin a lot of credibility as currency, as legal tender. As a matter of fact, Japan is one of those countries. Now, Japan's not the only country that's done this, and it won't be the last country that does this. And eventually, I'm sure the United States government will as well, because it gives them the ability now to start to tax it. And you know they love to tax things, right? So it's inevitable that it will. Now, when people say, well, they legalized it, yeah, but it was never illegal. When we talk or hear things about legalizing it, sometimes people get the wrong impression. It was never illegal. Okay, but they legalized in the sense they started regulating it and recognizing it and classifying it as legal tender. Now, the IRS here in the U.S., did you know they accept Bitcoin to pay your taxes?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, the IRS classifies Bitcoin, though, as property. That'll probably change. But we're not here to talk about that tonight. The reality is that right now is an opportune time, because I wanted to bring this up because I don't know if you've experienced it, those of you that are in Bitclub Network, but you know, a lot of people that are in Bitclub Network, they come to me and they say, you know, look, people get so nervous and so paranoid and over anxious over the price of Bitcoin when it goes down. That's why I shared what I shared with you a minute ago. That's not the time to be nervous. That's the time to be excited. That's the time to get in and to buy. Because it's going to go up. We have seen over time it's gone up. How many people here got involved with Bitcoin when it was under $1,000 a coin? Under 500? Under 250? Only a few of us? Well, good for you. Now, how many of you wish you'd have gotten involved with Bitcoin when you could have got it for under 250? How much would you have bought? Because I brought my time machine. I want to take anyone that wants to go back in time a few years to buy some Bitcoin. How many people would like to take that trip with me? Would you buy some Bitcoin? How much would you buy?
As much as you could.
Absolutely. Well, here's what I want to stress. I said that because I wanted to say this. If you understand that your 2020 vision, or that your rear vision is 2020, what we need to concentrate on is really educating ourselves. Because when you really start to educate yourself and you really start to understand, we have a much brighter future. There is much more opportunity ahead of us to make money than the opportunity of the past. Now, when you fully grasp that, and I know a lot of you have, but some of you are just beginning this journey, and so you haven't had enough exposure yet, and you haven't done enough due diligence yet, and documented enough stuff yet, and all that. But if you will stay on this course, stay on this path, and you get that education, I guarantee you, you will do everything in your power to acquire as much Bitcoin or other legitimate cryptocurrencies, not these fake coins, but legitimate cryptocurrency, because it's inevitable it's going to go up in value. Less than 1% today of the population are even aware of Bitcoin. And even less own any. Now, I'm not going to ask who owns any here, but here's what I tell people when I ask that first question. Remember the first question on a scale of 1 to 10? If they tell me they're a 3 or above, I ask them a very simple question. First, I congratulate them. I'm so glad that you have been educating yourself and getting up to speed. And so you obviously own Bitcoin, right? If they say no, I know they're not a 3. Because if they're a 3 or above, there is absolutely no way they would say, oh, I don't own any. Really? Why not? Why not? Now, if I could guarantee that Bitcoin in less than 10 years would be $1 million a coin, how many would you want today? Because it's better to accumulate them today at this price than it is a year from now when it's 50,000, 75,000, or 100,000 a coin. Isn't it? And with Bitclub Network, we have the opportunity to earn Bitcoin multiple ways. So before I shift gears and start talking about the Bitclub Network model, let me just pause and ask if anyone has any questions. We're all among friends here, so if you have a question, please feel comfortable enough to ask. But if you have any questions, because I haven't had enough time to really explain Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining and blockchain technology thoroughly. But I've tried to give you a big picture of what is going on. Enough to at least encourage you to pursue this further. But if you have any questions, please, don't hesitate. You can ask. I may not know the answer, but you can ask. No questions? All right. Well, how many people here would like for me to shift gears then and talk a little bit about Bitclub Network and Bitcoin mining?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, Bitclub Network is owned by its members. We're set up like a cooperative enterprise, and the members actually own Bitclub Network. So if you are involved, or if you choose to get involved, you'll become like an owner in Bitclub Network. We chose to set it up that way based on the best legal advice that we could get. And we wanted to set it up in a similar fashion to the way the blockchain community and Bitcoin is set up. More of a decentralized as opposed to a controlled and manipulated business, rather owned and controlled by its members. Now, we started out as Bitcoin mining, and today that's still our core competency. We have been recognized over and over again as the fastest growing Bitcoin mining pool. And we have reached a point now where we're ready to go to the next level in terms of our mining equipment. We have already bought and paid for roughly 2,000 petahash of computers. Now, a lot of people have never heard of a petahash, but a lot of people have never heard of a terahash or any kind of hash, except maybe the hash that you smoke.
I heard of that.
And that's not the kind I'm talking about. So let me give you some perspective. When we started almost 4 years ago, we ran S3 computers because they were the best computers money could buy. And 1 petahash of computers, we needed an airplane hangar. Anyone ever seen an airplane hangar? Is that a pretty good size structure?
Oh, yes.
1 airplane hangar, 1 petahash. Now, obviously, when the S4 computers came out, we sold the S3s, we upgraded to S4s. When the S5 came out, we got rid of the S4s, upgraded to S5. That's why we've been able to continue to establish ourselves as a major leader in the Bitcoin mining arena. And then, of course, there were no S6s, so we upgraded to S7s when they came out. There were no S8s, so we upgraded to S9s. And, of course, the S9s came out with 28-nanometer chips, which were amazing until the 16-nanometer chips came out. And so we upgraded everything to the 16-nanometer chips, which are exponentially faster and more efficient than those. However, Andy, you may know this. I don't know, other than Bitmain and Bitfury, who we buy the equipment from. They're the 2 biggest manufacturers and most respected. Other than them and us, we're the only ones running the 16-nanometer chips, right?
Yeah.
Now, what that means, folks, I just wanted to verify, because Andy he's more technical than I am. And he's also got a great relationship with the folks over there at Bitmain. So I saw you talking to Yoshi. So at any rate, I tend to rely on experts. Don't you think that's a good strategy? And I know Andy's a tremendous expert, but here's what that means. If you are running S9 computers, you're competitive if you're running the 28 nanometer chips. But if you're not running 28 nanometer chips and S9 computers, you're really not even in the game if you're trying to mine with older equipment than that. But the reality is, who has the competitive advantage? The 28 nanometer chip users or us with the 16 nanometer chip users? We're exponentially faster. So that means we can do trillions and trillions and trillions of calculations, many more calculations every minute than anyone else that's running inferior equipment.
So the fastest is the 16 nanometer.
For now.
For now.
For now.
Very soon it's going to be much faster.
Yep. As a matter of fact, you think it's okay to tell them?
Yeah, I think so.
We have established great relationships with Bitmain, who also runs Antpool and some other Bitcoin mining pools, which Antpool is the largest Bitcoin mining pool, as well as our relationship with Bitfury. We order equipment a year in advance, and we prepay for it. So you know that makes you, when you're buying the most equipment and frankly everything that comes off the line that they sell so that no one else can get these 16 nanometer chips, we're their best customer. Right? But we're still at their mercy. And right now, our sales have exceeded their ability to deliver us equipment. We bought and paid for equipment that's already supposed to be delivered and installed. And some of it is being delivered and installed and has been since the first of the year, and more will be over the course of the coming month and months. But eventually, in the not too distant future, we will be installing our own equipment, our own chips, which will be the newest and next generation, even better than the 16 nanometer chips. Now, folks, here's what that means. That means we're no longer at the mercy of Bitmain or Bitfury. Now, they've been good to us, and we've been good for them. But the reality is, they charge so much for equipment because they make a lot more money if they put it online and mine Bitcoin. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, we still get the best price because we buy so much and we've bought for so long, and we order a year in advance and prepay it. So we're always first in line. But we're still paying about 10 times more for equipment than we can manufacture it for ourselves. So think about that. Come July, when our equipment is installed, that we're manufacturing ourselves at 10% of the cost of, well, other people can't even buy at our price, but let's just say they could. We're still able to bring online 10 times more equipment without changing anything. The revenue model that we have, the business model that we have, will enable us to start bringing on 10 times more equipment. Folks, let me tell you, from July forward, if you're not a superpower, because this is an arms race, that's how I refer to it. When you're mining Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, it's an arms race. And you hear these companies that are starting up saying, oh, we're going to get into Bitcoin mining. First of all, they can't even get the best equipment. And what they can get, they're going to pay way more than they should for it. They're going to pay way more for electricity. They're going to pay way more for data centers. So how can they even be competitive in the first place to someone like us? Because think of it this way. Does a militia have a chance against a superpower with nuclear capabilities? Because that's the difference between the big, giant pools of which we've become one of. And we're about to become, I believe, in the not too distant future, I think you would second that, the biggest mining pool in the world. And we are Bitclub Network. Which means that what is good is going to get so much better. Now here's the reality. A lot of people say, well, what if I wanted to mine with this company or that company? I'll just throw out a name. Anyone heard of Genesis Mining?
Yes.
We do business with them too. We have more mining equipment than they do. But if you want to mine with them, you can. In fact, some friends of mine actually started mining with them, so I know what their returns are. And we compared their returns to my returns. And even though right now we're historically paying out less than we have in the past. That's about to change. We're going to get some big bonuses, and obviously we're ramping up our power. We're going to go from roughly 600 petahash to 2,000 petahash in the next couple of months. So we're going to see bigger and better returns. But even the returns today are still 46% better than Genesis. So why would you mine with Genesis? On top of that, not only are we mining and paying out 100% of what we mine every day to our members. We're the only pool in the world that does that. Pays out 100% of what we mine to the members. We also set up our model so that the members could automatically repurchase, so that they never have to come out of pocket. Because would you rather have more machines or less machines? More. Now, would you rather pay for them or let your mining pay for them? We set it up so that you can let your mining rewards, most of it goes into your wallet, and if you need to spend it, you can. I encourage you, don't spend your Bitcoin, save them, because they're going to be worth more tomorrow than they are today. So, if you have to spend them, I understand, you got to eat. But try not to sell your Bitcoin if you can avoid selling your Bitcoin. But the reality is that going forward, with the amount of mining power that we're bringing online in the short term and especially the long term, I don't see how these other little mining companies will be able to compete. Do you? So when is the most opportune time to get involved with Bitclub Network? We're not some startup fly-by-night company that's unproven. We're almost 4 years old. Everything that we say can be backed up and documented on the blockchain. We're totally 100% transparent. When do you ever find a company do that? I have friends try to pitch me on this, and they try to pitch me on that, and so on and so forth. And I tell them, where's the proof? Where's the documentation? If you're not restricted by or confined by the truth, they can tell you the most unbelievable story. And it sounds so good that you want to believe it. And unfortunately, most people do.
So what you're saying is the faster your computing power, the more you're going to beat the other guy in solving the equation.
It's a race. It's a race. That's why I called it an arms race.
The difficult rate is at 3 trillion right now per second.
3 trillion transactions a second.
Numbers.
So if we're working with Ampool and Bitfury, I was wondering why we're not like number 3, or like why is Bitclub Network and Bitfury like number 10, 11, 12, 13 on that list of like the top mining pools in the world?
It has to do with how much computing power they have mining at any given time. Right now, we're running in the ballpark of 600 plus petahash, which gives us in the ballpark of about 5 or 6%. Some days it might be more, some days it might even be less, because there's an element of luck. It depends on your luck score. And, there's an element of luck too. The level of difficulty varies. So it's not an exact science, but it's pretty obvious that if you have more mining power and faster, more efficient machines, your luck is going to be better than if you're handicapped. Right? And that's all I'm saying.
Also, something to remember is that you're talking about the chart, right? If your name is on the chart, that means you own the equipment. If you don't own the equipment, you're not on the chart.
Like Genesis.
So, exactly. If they're leasing equipment or if they don't own it, they're not in it.
I mean, to me, I feel like if Bitfury is making the actual things that we're using, wouldn't Bitfury be number 3 after?
Well, see, that's the
Ampool?
beauty of blockchain. Let me explain some of the technical aspects of blockchain. When the miners are verifying and validating all the transactions that are occurring, it requires at least a 51% consensus. Okay? So no one can manipulate that. It requires that percentage or greater. Also, no one mining pool can ever be responsible for more than 5%. So there can never be just one pool, or 2 pools, or 3 pools. Okay? Because they cannot contribute more than 5%. So that's why it requires a collective. So the reality is that Bitmain and Bitfury need us because we help to keep the balance, the equilibrium of the whole blockchain community. Does that make sense?
So what's going to happen when we like make our own equipment and stuff? They're going to fall off the chart?
Oh no, they're not going to fall off the chart.
I mean, not
We're
fall
going to come up on the chart. I mean, right now, it may have changed. I haven't checked recently. But the last time I did check, there was about 8,000 petahash computing and mining Bitcoin in the world. I think it's higher than that now, isn't it? Yeah. But obviously, as they continue to add more power and we continue to add more power, it gives us a better leverage, a stronger position against any of these smaller mining pools. But what Andy was saying as far as the chart, and here's something because we were talking earlier, when people come at you and say, well, you know, we got this coin or we got that coin and that sort of thing, and we've got all of these mines, show me. Let's go to blockchain.info. Show me what you're mining. Show me how long you've been mining and what you've been mining. Because if you're legitimate, you're there. Right? But if they can't show you, they're not legitimate. You start asking them questions like, is their coin, their ICO, is it a decentralized platform or is it centralized? Does their coin require proof of work? Is it encrypted? Does it have its own blockchain to secure and protect the network? And I'll tell you, most of the people that are coming after you are just pitchmen. You know, they don't know. And if you start to educate yourself and you start to talk to them like I'm sharing this information with you, they're going to know that you know what you're talking about. And then maybe they'll listen to you. Because you can tell them, look, I'm involved with Bitclub Network because I know they're legit. Everything is documented. Everything is transparent. They've been at this for a long time, and they're one of the best at it. And they give us an opportunity to also share this with our friends and family if we want to build a team. Now, you don't have to build a team, so that's where maybe we should go next. There was a question, though, before I go.
I was just wondering, where do you house all this equipment?
Well, we have equipment in Iceland, Russia, China. Is it Norway now that we're also in? We're also looking for another location.
Is that directly controlled and operated by the club? When you say you're spread out all over the world, who's actually physically making sure those buildings and computers are running?
Well, those are very secure centers. You take Iceland as an example. Iceland was a former NATO center, and it's the #2 data center in the world. I mean, you've got Visa and MasterCard and banks that are also in this data center with their computers, as well as us with our computers.
So it's a third-party company that you're...
Managing the
Okay, so it's
secure
being managed
facility.
by the same level of
Security
type of
facility.
Data
operations
center.
as-
Yeah. Yes, the same level of security and maintenance and supervision as the biggest multi-billion-dollar companies in the world.
What do you actually, so you're actually renting space there, and along with that comes all the services they provide, and then...
In Iceland, we are leasing, but we've actually invested in our own data centers and will continue to do that, as we've invested a lot of money in power plants as well as in our own mining equipment.
And then when you say you invested, so all of that is documented so that everything can be, I mean, how do the members, can they see, can they go online and see where all these centers are and what's happening with them?
Yeah, the website has videos that people can watch if they don't want to actually get on a plane and go there. There's quite a few people here that are in the room. Ray, I know you were there. David, you were there. Andy, you were there. Tatiana, you were there. I was there in Iceland just last month. We had almost 600 people that flew in from all over the world because they wanted to see. You know, they wanted to know it was real. So if you ever want to come, you know, we do organized tours.
This one is in June.
In June. Next one's coming up in June, Andy said. And, you know, I think it's a great experience for people to actually see. Now, when you walk into these mining centers, you feel like you're walking behind a jet airplane. The noise is like deafening, and the volume of air that's moving through there, because obviously the air in Iceland is frigid, and the computers make a lot of heat. So we actually suck all of the heat up through the racks and out and bring in cold air to replace it. It's you know, deafening.
Sure it is.
But it's impressive. It's very impressive. So at any rate, let's just continue on the Bitclub network model, because as I mentioned, we started out mining Bitcoin. That's still one of our core competencies, but we also mine cryptocurrencies using GPU mining rigs. And, you know, those are going through a major evolution right now. And a lot of people recently, because of the value of cryptocurrencies rising, a lot of people have tried jumping into mining Bitcoin and mining Ethereum and other things. And what they don't realize, they're buying equipment that's outdated. New equipment is going to be released here very soon. In fact, we're building supercomputers right now that literally one supercomputer will replace all the computers in 8 warehouses. That's how efficient and fast they are. So, I mean, if you're in the game, and you're in the game to win like we are, when you start to learn and understand and validate and document all this, as Andy's done and I've done, David's done, and others in here have done, you'll understand that this is truly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Now, for those of you that know me, you know that I've been involved in the direct sales industry for coming up on 30 years. And I've been successful in that industry. I've built to the top of every marketing plan that, companies that I've joined. And in 5 of the 10 companies I've built to the top end, I've been the #1 income earner. And I can tell you without hesitation and without any reservation whatsoever, my experience with Bitclub Network is so far beyond all of those combined in terms of not just my level of income and success, but the number of other people that are making extraordinary income in the shortest period of time. I mean, there's nothing that I'm aware of that even comes close to how many multimillionaires we've created and people that are worth tens of millions of dollars already in just a 12 to 24 month, 36 month period of time. I mean, I've just never seen it. And here's the reality, is it's only going to get better. In fact, we were having this conversation before everyone came in. And I know that I'm digressing here, but I think it's really good to share this information because some of you, like me, might have direct sales experience. How many do? You've been involved in direct sales? Okay. Here's a question that I love to pose to every person that's been in direct sales because we understand that industry. We understand that we ask people to sell a product that we mark up 8, 10, 12 times and a brand that no one's ever heard of. And so that puts a price on a product higher than what similar products can be bought for. And then the industry expects them to go out and sell a product that's overpriced from a brand no one's ever heard of. Does that make sense? Is it any wonder that most people that join any direct sales company quit? Whether it's in a month or 2 months or 3 months or, about 9 out of 10 quit in 6 months. Has that been your experience? That's been my experience over the last 30 years. Now, doesn't mean we can't succeed because we persevere and we look for good people that are willing to be trained. If they're teachable and coachable, we can teach them and teach them the communication skills and business skills and the other skills that they need to be successful. But at the end of the day, you got to bring in more people than quit to get ahead. That's why I said it's a grind. Okay, now I'm not knocking or putting down the industry, but that's a reality. So here's the question I wanted to ask. Based on either your present or past business that you built in the direct sales industry, how much would you be making or would you have made if no one that joined your business ever quit? Think about that. Let that sink in. If 9 out of 10 people are going to quit within a 6-month period of time, these are direct sales statistics from the Direct Sellers Association, not mine. But if the majority of people quit, if no one ever quit, would you have made more money? Would it have been a little bit more or a lot more? Been a lot more. Okay. Welcome to Bitclub Network. No one ever quits. No one ever gets hurt. I don't care who it is. It can be an elderly person, a young person, a single parent. It doesn't matter. They make a one-time investment and they buy a mining contract. And it pays them every single day for the rest of their life. And when you go forward over 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and you look at the Bitcoin that the mining is going to generate for you and what the projected value is going to be, that investment is so minuscule in contrast to the returns that you're going to get. Now, of course, we have historical documentation based on what those of us that have been mining are earning. But, past performance doesn't always determine what future results are going to be. That's my disclaimer. But the reality is, if we get bigger and even better than we already are, it could be a lot better than it is. But I'm okay with it the way it is. I'm tickled to death the way it is. If it gets better, more cause to celebrate. But it's already so good I can't stand it. Sometimes I feel like I have to pinch myself because I think I'm sleeping. But here's another thing. Not only do people never quit because they get paid every day for the rest of their life, there's no monthly fees, there's no annual fees, it's a one-time investment. Now, of course they could buy more mining contracts. I did that. I started with 3, realized after they started mining that this really is real. And I bought 7 more. And then I bought more, and I bought more, and I keep buying more. I'll never stop buying more mining contracts because I understand what the ROI is for buying the mining contracts. Now, I've amassed a lot of Bitcoin because I don't sell Bitcoin. I just stack them up. Not literally because they're not literal coins, but you know what I mean. But here's the thing that I love about this. Imagine that not only did no one ever quit, but after the first year they doubled their auto-ship. What would that do to your income? It'd double your income, wouldn't it? That's what happens here. After just over a year, the repurchase has bought a second contract. Now going forward, they're making twice as much money every day because they got 2 contracts mining instead of the one they bought. And now they got double the repurchasing power. So you know what that means? With double the repurchasing power, they get the 3rd mining machine contract in half the time it took to get the second one. Now they got 3 times the repurchasing power and 3 times the income. And we're overriding that. It gets exciting. Yes?
Question for you in the mining contracts. How does the IRS look at as a mining contract in terms of capital gains?
I know you want me to answer that, but I'm neither an attorney nor a CPA. Okay. But I can tell you this. If you go to the IRS website, they classify Bitcoin as property. Now, anytime you sell property, if you have a profit, you pay a capital gains tax. They do not view it as income, but as a capital gain. But that's a conversation really you should have with your tax attorney. Probably shouldn't have even said what I said, but I already said it. So, that being said, here it gets even better. Oh, another question.
Is there a way that you could have, your state control that? So they don't
Your state?
Yeah, so that way they don't come after you.
Who comes after you?
Like the government or whatever. Like I heard that you could have, you can manage your, you could have the state manage your contracts.
A lot of people are doing that. They're setting up their IRAs and investing in Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, yeah. Who do we go to? I mean, I know there's going to be
I can talk to you afterwards and give you a couple that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you, Andy.
I don't have any direct affiliation with them, but there's a few out there.
That's Andy.
So at any rate, I know that we're already way over time, and I want to wrap this up. So let me wrap it up by saying that here's the other thing that excites me about Bitclub Network is, as someone in the direct sales industry, I've earned very good money. And when you're paid in dollars, obviously you do pay tax on that. But dollars are dollars are dollars, and they keep going down in value. True or not true? Bitcoin, on the other hand, when you get paid in Bitcoin, imagine if you'd gotten paid, like a lot of us did a year ago, over $100,000 worth of Bitcoin in a single month. And more. What would that be worth today?
8 times.
Over $1 million, right? And if it goes up to 50,000, you're sure $5 million. So when you look at the value of Bitcoin as we move down the road, year after year after year, your net worth could grow much more rapidly than if you're just trying to stack up dollar bills. Much better to stack up Bitcoin. That's why I was talking about stacking up Bitcoin. Does it make sense? So anyway, we have an opportunity here to not only make the passive residual income, but we can build a team. And if you build a team, you have the ability to override not only your own personal contracts, because many people buy, obviously, many contracts. It's up to each individual as to how many they want to start with or how many they want to add. But the reality is that we don't have the time tonight to get into the compensation plan. But the person that's invited you here tonight can schedule some time with you to sit down and go through that compensation plan, because it's an extremely lucrative compensation plan. But is there any questions anyone's dying to ask before we wrap it up? You've already gone past your limit. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Can you talk about what the cost of a mining contract is?
Sure. If you buy a founder's pool in the Bitcoin mining space, it's $3,500. There's a one-time lifetime membership fee that we pay for $99 of Bitcoin. And then the founder's package, which also gets you other benefits and bonuses like the CoinPay shares. Because we've already pre-launched this in Korea and Japan, and it's about to be released around the world. A global merchant platform for any business, no matter how big or how small, to accept Bitcoin and other legitimate cryptocurrencies for payment, utilizing our patented Smart Payment app.
Is $3,500 the minimum?
No, you could actually break the $3,500 into 3 separate pools. You could start with a $500 pool. That's called Pool 1. We have Pool 2, which is $1,000. And then we have Pool 3, which is $2,000. If you add them all up, 2, 1, and 5, it's $3,500.
So if you're saying you can accumulate those over time and eventually get to that $3,500?
Yeah. Yeah. Or you can start there. And then some people also want to be involved in mining other crypto. So our GPU mining contracts are $1,000. Or you can buy a founder share, which is 5 GPU mining contracts for $5,000. So either $1,000 or $5,000 on the GPU.
Does that work the same where you can accumulate those up to the 5,000?
Yes, exactly the same. And they all can be set up to automatically repurchase as well, so that you never have to reinvest any money.
So
Well-
I know a lot of us are in Bitclub Network.
Yeah.
So if they want to know how to maximize the most, you just talk to your sponsor, right? Or
Absolutely.
Just sit down one-on-one.
Yeah. Yeah, best to just sit down for a strategy session.
Got it.
You know, figure out what it is you want to achieve and when you want to achieve it, and then we put a plan together for you to make that happen. Anyway, thank you all for coming out tonight. We'll take one more question and then we'll wrap it up.
Thanks. When I have told people about the Bitclub, the first thing they do is go on the internet and they put Bitclub in there, and you know what comes up? All the negative stuff about Bitclub. And how do you overcome that negativity?
Well, all you can really do is just, talk to people and try to reason with them. Unfortunately, a lot of people, they're looking for something negative. And you can find something negative about everything. I mean, I love Bentleys and BMWs, but you can find stuff negative on them if you look for it. And the reality is, those sites, I've been to them. And the one thing that they have in common, they only talk negative about everybody. It's not just us. They're just down on network marketing. And because we have a direct sales comp plan, and when you read through there, you realize they don't know what in the world they're even talking about. Because a lot of the stuff they're talking about, they are so off base because they don't know us. They haven't verified or double-checked or triple-checked like it's so easy to do. Because as I was saying, everything is documentable, everything is transparent. But unfortunately, they make their living selling negative news sales. Doesn't make it true, but unfortunately, that's who they are.
Or they're selling something else.
What's that?
Or they're selling something else.
Exactly.
On their
Yeah,
page.
exactly.
Testimony.
Those are blogs that, they're trying to drive traffic, and negative stuff is what draws, the most eyeballs.
How do they make money on that?
You've seen the ads on their sites? Oh, yeah. So the higher their traffic count, they get paid every time you go to their website. Yeah, that's how they get paid.
Well, plus they sell their own deal.
Yeah.
You say if you want to see a better deal that's real.
Well, yeah,
rather
some
than
do that.
negatives,
That's true. Some do
then
that.
go over here and take a look at this link and this.
But some set them up as like the watchdog, but they're really not qualified.
Some of them also will go to a company and they'll say for a certain amount of money, they'll
Oh, yeah.
take the report out.
At any rate, let's invite Andy to come up. If you clap real loud, he'll come up. And I just want him to share, as we conclude, what his experience with Bitclub Network is.
Well, my experience with the Bitclub network is the same experience that Michael had, because Michael's the one that convinced me to get into a Bitclub, to start with. Because at the time, when you hear about a Bitcoin, just like what you said, Doc, is that, gee, Bitcoin. I was relating Bitcoin to a money game, because it's not something that you get to see. It's not something you get to touch. And people exaggerate about the Bitcoins. And anything you see in the news at the time, 3 years ago, is about negative.
Kind of like life insurance.
Yeah. Or the used car salesman mentality, And so I said, no, come on. You guys are getting into a money game? I can't do that. I got a reputation to protect type of situation. But, he gave me a good, open, idea about the Bitcoin. So opened my eyes and focus to outside of the box thinking. And once I learned about the Bitcoins, I said, gee, this is great. So we set up the schedule and said, let's go to Japan, because they've been working with cryptocurrencies for several years in Japan compared to the U.S. So there's possibility that we have a great market over there that we could open up. So we set up the schedule to go to Japan. Week before we went to Japan, we see it on a Japanese newspaper, legalizing Bitcoin in Japan. We looked at it and said, gee, somebody up there must like us. So anyway, so that's how we got started. Some of you remember that story. So we went to Japan, and we started going back to Japan every month. And it's been a little over a year, and now I have in my organization, out of 204 monsters in the entire organization, I have a little over 50. And out of 34 mega monsters in the organization, I have 12 mega monsters in my group. So it's been great, and thanks to Michael. God bless.
Your group is rocking, Andy.
Yeah.
You left something out.
What's that?
Tell them about that new Mega Monster car that you've...
I haven't gotten it yet.
I know you haven't, but it's on its way, I hear. Russ told me that you want a Maserati.
Yeah.
As a Mega Monster, you either get a watch that's worth 130,000, something like that, matching cufflinks. I mean, it's a beautiful watch. If you want to see it, I'll show you a picture. I don't wear jewelry. I don't even have a wedding ring.
So we're both going to go for the car, right?
So anyway, I told, Russ has been on me now because I qualified right after Dubai as a Mega Monster, and he's been after me to take the watch, and I kept asking him for a car. I'd much rather, I don't need another watch. I mean, my wife will tell you I got some beautiful watches, but I never wear them. So what's a watch going to do me any good? However, a Bentley or a Rolls Royce or a Maserati, not too bad.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, I was over in Jakarta at Ross's apartment, right?
Yeah.
And he comes out with 100,000. I was like, here it is. What are you going to do with it? So, yeah.
It is a nice looking watch, but you really the primary purpose of that design is it's great for directing aircraft and helicopters.
Yeah. 13 carats worth of diamond.
Yeah.
How come they're not made to fit women?
They do have a women's.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just slightly
Fine.
smaller.
Yeah, or you can take the car.
Yeah, I was much rather take the car. I tried it.
Yeah.
Anyway, David, Peter, is there anything that you want to conclude with here before we dismiss everybody? We're all good?
I think it's good.
Okay.
Let everybody kind of talk amongst each other, and we'll have questions.
Okay.
Anybody want bottled waters? They're in that drawer over there. Get them out. On the bottom. Bottled waters. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you.
My wife got it for me, but it's cold.